that was game over. One of my best friends, real estate agent, the person that helped Tosh buy the condo, went to high school with Lindsay. Whatever it was like we had plenty of agents in our life. I never met Natalie ever before, but I just happened to walk into the open house and there's Natalie, and that's what they connected on. That it was like nobody could change that. Natalie did her part. She was like, listen, they bought it on the pregnancy thing, what was important, and then we talked about school districts. She knew like what was coming. We had no idea, right? I didn't know anything about school. She was like, oh man, like this is gotta, and this school's tough to get into, and this is where it's at. This is, she goes, can I send you some stuff? She did. Next day, every day she's sending us stuff. We ended up going touring properties with her, and we bought our house with Natalie.
Oh.
Now, I'm not saying like that's what it was. It was the connection that you have with people and getting in front of it. And so like, I have referred a lot of business to friends of mine in the real estate business who were part of the Mommy and Me group that my wife was part of. And then it just kind of happened to be the network. Never thought like I'd lean into that. You just kind of lean into that.
So if we don't have listings, how do we get on doing open houses for other agents?
Well, I think
I
JJ
just
can answer that.
If you're hooked up to the, whatever the shared, like Google shared drive, whatever it is, people put it in there. I just saw one of a guy asking for agents to cover on Saturday and Sunday. So I want to get on there. I think JJ would have to hook you up to it.
Yeah, I can share the open house sign up sheet.
Yeah, and share it with me, please.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
And let everyone who's willing to listen, like, let them know what your strengths are. You know, like I know that at least at some point, like open houses were doing far between, like houses were selling before they were even going to the market. That's not exactly the case now, but like there's a lot of people competing to sit in an open house. We know the value of it. So just let people know who you are and what you're great at, you know, and what you're going to do and be available, and people will think of you.
I just bring up real estate if I see anybody. I saw like 5 doctors last week and I just mentioned it to all of them. And so like, they'll mention it to their patients.
Yeah.
Not in like a weird way, but it's like they ask you how you're doing and then you share it a little bit more. And they're like, oh, okay. So you never know.
This is the 4th physical this month. What's going on? Look, doc, I really need the business to be honest.
It takes a lot of patience to.
It's consistent now. We had guys that were in here a couple of weeks ago. They're off, their team is here. The first team to do over $100 million in business here in this office, 100 million. Started, and their main source of income is from door knocking. They door knock the same neighborhood they have for 10 years now. They didn't get their first deal until 2 years after door knock.
That's get any deal.
No deal, 2 years, but in 2 years, they became like the neighborhood knew who they were. Like they knew that here comes Jerry and Sherry again. Here comes Jerry and Sherry again.
Also has family and friends if they know anybody in real estate. I asked my boyfriend's dad and he has a friend from Israel that's a realtor. Now I have a connection with a realtor directly that like I can just refer to and get.
Well, that's the Russian guy that I was talking about, the Steinway guy. He started doing that, and there are a lot of people leaving that part of the world that are like from Ukraine that are coming to here that they need a Russian speaking agent. Like he's all about it. So
Thank you.
sure.
Yeah, we're gonna do leasing.
Like the wins, like a little win.
Thanks.
Whatever it is. It's good to connect the wins. Okay. Don't connect the negatives.
All right, you're gonna be a professional lease person after this.
Okay.
What do you call it for me? The extension of the lease form is that?
We're gonna talk about all
An extension.
everything leasing. So
I
today,
can have a maybe lease.
same stuff leasing.
I did one, yeah.
So, all right, so leasing is a lot of work or not a lot of money. But it can be a lot of money if you do a lot of leasing, right? So the thing with leasing is, let's really look at this. Like let me explain first. We get paid on a lease is I'm all about the money. As you should be.
Or trade class.
Now, when I say I'm all about the money, I mean, I'm half joking. You don't want to lose your client. So if you have a client that wants you to lease their property for them and you say no, you're giving them the opportunity to create a relationship with another real estate agent. So the reason to do leasing is about relationship. Of course, it's about money, but you have to not lose money on it. Your time is money, but you know, I do it for a relationship. I don't want my client using a different agent, right? And developing that relationship. So let's talk about how we get paid on a lease. So when a tenant moves into a property, they're going to give cashier's checks to move in. So no personal checks. We want cashier's checks. And the reason I'm saying that is because once a tenant moved, first of all, California is very, very tenant vibes, right? So someone moves in a property, they have squatters' rights, they can move in, the check can bounce, and then they're moved in. Try to get them out. Like call the police. The police are going to say, no, sorry, can't help you. This is not really an emergency. Go to civil court. Like, I don't know. Like, it's really a problem. So a landlord really has to accept a tenant. First of all, you can only discriminate on financial. If you're denying someone, it has to be based on financial. But it's very important to look at someone's character. Very important. You don't want to have a tenant that's going to move in and just not pay. So you need to look at their payment history, right? There's more to the story. You know, you want to make sure they're going to pay. Basically, if you have a tenant that moves in and they don't pay, there's nothing you can do. Really nothing you can do. I called City of Beverly Hills a month ago. I called City of Beverly Hills and I asked them if a seller stays in a property past close of escrow, right? You let a seller stay past the close of escrow, and you only let them stay there a week. You give them a license to stay for a week. I said to the Beverly Hills Police, will you come and get them out? Will you kick them out? And they said it's not that simple. So just letting you know, it's
Actually, that kind of happened to me when I moved here. I had a friend who helped me like get into my rental property and I did not, they just stayed like one night. I was like, okay, time to go. And they're like, no, and I had to call the police.
The police say to you.
Oh, it's not emergency, no.
Not emergency.
I was on,
What
like,
did they say?
waiting. Huh?
And did they become?
I mean, they never came, but
They never
I
came.
convinced them to just like,
Right, but the police never came.
but their thing they used against me was like, oh, you don't know California. If somebody stayed with you 1 day or 2 days, they have a right. I'm like, oh my God,
Right.
it's the night.
Right. So that's
Unlawful, the unlawful.
exactly, but
You can't use that when somebody come into your house and you have mortgage to pay and,
there's laws. But laws are only as good as being enforced,
yeah.
right? So you have all these laws on the books, but if they're not enforced,
Even in Beverly Hills and
Just California a little bit.
so that, yeah, they're trespassing. They're trespassing. So you should be able to call the police and get them kicked out if they're trespassing.
Mhm.
Someone can actually move into your house, change the locks, and you can't get them out anymore.
Yeah. It's
Right?
like that's
Yeah.
sad.
I mean, that's just how it is. Okay. All I'm trying to say is a landlord has to be very careful about who they pick as a tenant. Okay. And all the time I get questions from agents about leasebacks. And it clearly says on the leaseback that a buyer needs to consult with their attorney about the possibilities of what can happen in this leaseback. Because there are possibilities what can happen. So,
yeah.
you know, if you have a buyer, you want to take a property vacant. You want to take a vacant property. That's the best way to take it. Okay. Unless you're an investor. If you're an investor and you're buying property with a tenant and they're paying rent, so you just want to make sure that they've paid the rent. Not only would I ask for a tenant to sign an estoppel certificate, but I would want to see past deposits. I'd make the sellers show me deposits. I want to see them paying on time every month. Anyways, how do we get paid? So let's say we're talking about a $5,000 a month lease. So this is $5,000 a month. Okay. And let's say someone signs a 1-year lease. So you can go 5,000 times 12 is $60,000 a year. If we sign a lease listing at 6%, 3% for the listing agent, 3% for the buyer's agent, right? So this is going to be 60 times 0.06. That is $3,600 in commission, which equals $1,800 per broker. Okay, everyone all follow me so far? So we're paid on the term of the lease. So if the lease is 5,000 a month and it's a 1-year lease, that is a $60,000 total rent. We're gonna get paid 6% of that, so that's $3,600. If there's another broker involved, we're splitting it with them, so 1,800 each. Now, when the tenant moves in, they're gonna be paying the landlord first and security. Okay. If first and security, so first plus security deposit equals, if you're only asking 1 month security, that means they're gonna pay 10,000 to move in.
But
If you're only getting 1 month security deposit, they're gonna be paying $10,000 to move in.
you get 10,000, but 36.
First is 5,000,
Oh, for the rent is 5,000.
rent is 1 month,
5,000,
security deposit,
right, 10,000.
so $10,000, okay. Instead of the tenant making 1 check for 10,000 to the landlord, they're gonna make 3 checks. This is how we get paid up front. So there's gonna be. So this is gonna equal $1,800 to KW, 1,800 to other broker. And then 10,000 minus 3,600 is 6,300, 6,400 to the landlord. Cashier's checks. Only. All right, yes,
Just do it one more time, real fast.
100%, 100%. Okay, so we're talking about leasing, how we get paid on a lease. Okay, so let's say we have a property that the rent is $5,000 a month. And the tenant is gonna sign a 1-year lease. So we do 5,000 times 12 months. The total value of the lease is 60,000. That's what the total rent is gonna be. Now, we're gonna get paid based upon the term. 6%. Now, we're gonna sign a listing agreement today. We're gonna go over the listing agreement. But usually we'll sign a 6% listing agreement on a lease and we'll offer 3% to the tenant's agent.
If he has one.
If they have one, if not, we get everything. Thanks. We love that. 3,600 would be 60,000, would be the 1 year, right? 5,000 times 12 is 60,000 times 6%. The total commission is 3,600. So that's $1,800 per broker if it's split. Okay, what we're gonna collect from the tenant is $10,000, is first month, 5,000, plus 1 month security deposit, 5,000. So the tenant is responsible for giving 10,000 to the landlord. We get paid upfront. So we're gonna deduct both commissions, the 1,800 plus the 1,800, and the landlord's gonna get a check for 6,400 instead of getting a check for 10,000. And we want cashier's checks. That's how we get paid. The reason it's done this way is because if it wasn't, we would have to have a full-time collections department in our office.
And what happens to no tenant's agent? How do you handle?
Then there'll be 2 checks. Instead of 2 $1,800 checks, there'll be 1 check to 3,600 to Keller Williams and 1 check to 6,400 to the landlord.
The agreement is done the same way or is 2 agreements?
I'm gonna show you our addendum. We have an addendum for this. Now, imagine a world where the landlords always got paid in full, their first and security. And then what happens? You need to call the landlord and say, I'm waiting for my check. Can you please send me the check? The check is in the mail. It's never gonna happen. It's never gonna happen. I mean, let's be honest, right?
Where should get you? Venmo is okay or Zelle?
If the tenant
What
made,
about the check, the Zelle or Venmo?
if the tenant made 1 payment to the landlord will never pay the agents. It's
Yeah,
coming, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming.
Yeah, or exactly,
It'll
yeah.
never come. Maybe 6 months later, it'll come, maybe.
Yeah.
But there would have to be a collections department here full time. And then you have the other broker that's calling you saying, where's my money? Where's my money? Where's my money? And you're saying, I'm trying. This is not how we do it. We get it up front. There's never an issue. Everyone gets paid up front. That's how it's done.
What about next year?
Okay, so now we're talking about renewals. So now, if you, this all depends on how we sign our listing agreement with the landlord. So when we sign our listing agreement, which we're gonna go through right now, we can say how we're being compensated. Are we being compensated on the first year only? Are we being compensated on the entire term? Like, what if this was a 2-year lease? Then our commissions would be 7,200 instead of 3,600. Right? If they sign a 2-year lease. So we get paid on the initial term. And then what about renewals? We can put in our contract that we get paid on renewals.
But usually you don't, right?
Well, it's up to you. It's just every single contract's different. So everything is negotiable, basically. Commissions are negotiable, terms are negotiable, everything's negotiable.
Monthly.
You can have where you get paid monthly. You get paid monthly commissions. If it's month to month, you can ask for it, sure.
And if the tenants not gonna move out after 1 year,
Yeah.
landlord can sue us or?
Whoa, 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 whoa. What are you saying? Who's
See
suing?
if they're renewing.
Who's suing?
or not.
Yeah, because the tenant we brought for the landlord and
Tenant, yeah, well, wait, why is anyone suing us?
the tenant doesn't want to move out.
The tenant doesn't want to move out, the landlord's not getting paid.
Yeah,
Now we have a landlord tenant situation. We do not get involved in landlord tenant situations. We are not property managers. Once, our job is to find a tenant and we do not approve tenants. The landlord is gonna be saying to me, JJ, what do you think? Should I go for it? Should I take them? Should I accept them? And my response is, that's totally up to you. Like, if there's more information that you want me to get for you, I'm happy to request it. And I'm never gonna tell my landlord, accept them, take them.
Yeah.
And they're always gonna say to me, what do you, if it was your place, would you do it? They're always gonna throw that out there.
About month-to-month contract.
What's your response?
My response is I don't approve tenants. I purposely don't approve tenants because this person could be the best on paper ever and give good vibes and move in and then stop paying. Like, I don't want to have that responsibility. They understand.
Yeah.
I've
You know,
seen-
but there's, huh?
I've seen that in my apartment complex, people that get approved and then they have eviction notices already in the
Yeah.
notice, because they don't pay once
I
they
know,
get in.
right. So
Get an agent if they're leasing month-to-month, no contract, will they get an agent?
an agent.
You know, to lease the place if it's only month-to-month, no contract.
So if someone wants me to rent their place month to month, I'm gonna give them a flat fee,
Oh, flat fee.
right?
What is
So
that?
let's just talk about the time involved in a lease right now. Here's because this, how much work are you doing for this $1,800? So let's just say I take a listing, I take a lease listing. Now I'm gonna have a photographer come in. I'm paying my photographer 400, 500, depending, 400, let's say 400. Okay, so now I'm at 1,400. Don't forget, I'm splitting this with the office. I have a split with Keller Williams. Okay, so from my side of the split comes my photography, comes my time putting all the contract together, leaving the office, unlocking, turning the lights on, doing the showing, hopefully the tenant shows up, right? Then I come back to the office, I get another call, can I see the property? I leave my office again, turn on the light, wait for them, show the property. So I could do 10, 20 showings.
So how do you figure out your flat fee?
So I'm just trying to figure this out. Like, let's say I have 20 showings at the property plus 5 hours of time doing the contract.
You don't know that before you write the contract. You don't know how many.
So how much is 1,800 divided by 25 hours?
I know you're gonna spend 25 hours,
Might spend only 2.
right?
No, but I will be spending hours on the contract. I will. So 1,800, just to say 25 hours, that's $72 an hour. Is it worth it? It's worth it if I get both sides. Then I go to 140 an hour. Right? Hopefully I get a tenant that doesn't have an agent, hopefully. Maybe they'll sign a 2-year lease and I'm gonna get double that, right? So now I'm 280 an hour, right? So you just never know. But
How do you figure out what your flat fee is?
that's up to you. That's what you feel that you're willing to work for. So I said when we started, part of this is not letting your client use someone else.
Right.
If your client establishes a relationship with another agent and then they go to sell that property, you just lost on that sale. So part of the reason you do leasing is because eventually their client's gonna sell, or you're gonna sell that client another property, right?
So
But this is about it's about relationships. Now, I handed something out. I'm gonna just share it with everybody online. This list. So, I'm actually not even gonna go into zip forms. So if you go into zip forms, you're logging in at car.org. I'll just go through the motions here. Once you're logged on at car.org, you just remember you're gonna go transactions, transactions, transactions. So once you're logged in, car.org, in this big bubble, you're gonna click transactions. Then there's gonna be another thing down here. It says transactions.
what website is that?
car.org.
What is that?
It's the California Association of Realtors.
Oh.
So every single agent in California, this is where we get our contracts. No
Oh,
matter what local board you joined, in order to get our contracts, we go to California Association of Realtors. So car.org, so transactions, and then it's gonna validate me, and then I'm gonna click again.
Actually, excuse me, before that,
Yes.
I have a
Continue transaction.
text here about the renewal zip form. Should I renewal?
Renew your zip forms, yes, yes,
you can call them.
yes.
So you can't access these forms through command?
You cannot access these forms through command because they are California Association of Realtor forms.
Oh, okay.
So all our contracts are from California Association of Realtors.
Is that part of NAR?
So when you join the Board of Realtors,
Uh-huh.
you can't join NAR or CAR. You have to join a local board. So here for us, we're joining the Greater Los Angeles Association of Realtors. People in Orange County will join the Orange County Association. Yeah. So you're gonna join a local board. When you join the local board, you automatically become a member of California and national.
When you say local, the county, right? The entire
Well,
county.
here, we're Los Angeles. We're Greater Los Angeles Association of Realtors. So you're joining GLAR.
Lancaster is LA.
Lancaster has their own board.
But doesn't
Oh, they are?
matter.
When you join the local board, you automatically become a member of California and national.
How do you figure out which part is your local? You go by county, city, or what?
I mean, it just depends. Like, I would Google it. I would just Google it.
Lancaster, is LA.
If you call the California Association of Realtors, they'll tell you who your local board is.
Oh.
Right? You could join any board.
Because you multiple.
This office is a member of boards everywhere.
And it costs money to join.
It costs money, yeah, it costs. Yeah. So let's say you wanted to list a property in
Lancaster.
Bakersfield. Let's say you wanted to list a property in Bakersfield.
Okay.
I think we share with Bakersfield. I think our MLS shares data with Bakersfield. But what if our company did not share, what if our local MLS did not share data with Bakersfield? You'd have to list your property in Bakersfield.
Yeah.
So now you would find out who the MLS is in Bakersfield and you would have to join it. And then our office would also have to join it.
Really?
Yes. Because you can't list a property in without the office also, because you're listing under the broker.
Oh,
So the broker would have to join it, you'd have to join it. And if it's for a lease, forget about it. We're not even doing that for a lease. Right? Unless you want to pay for it again. All right. Let's look at what I just handed out to you guys. Let's take a look at it. So this is where the contracts are in CAR. But let's just look at what I handed out. So the first thing I gave you is a checklist. So our office has a checklist for every transaction, whether it's a lease. You have this in front of you? Yes. Whether you're doing a lease or you're doing a sale or you're doing a commercial or you're doing land, there's a checklist for everything. So where are our checklists? So I will show you. If you go to KWVH virtual, this is where our office calendar is. So everyone should be going to this all the time for our calendar. If you go to this website, KWVH virtual, there's a link here called helpful links at the top. You'll click that. And then there's going to be a button to click on called approved logos, checklists, and disclosures. Right now, we need the checklists and we need the disclosures. So I'm going to click that. And I have checklists. So I'm going to into checklists. We have Here's the lease. So that's what I handed out, the lease checklist. And then we need some disclosures. So let's go to disclosures. We have lease disclosures here. What are the two lease disclosures? There's gonna be one that says it's an addendum. What's the addendum? That we're not property managers. That's what the addendum says. We're not property managers and we don't select tenants, basically. And then the KW lease money disposition, this is the other one. And this talks about the three cashiers, Jens. Okay, all right,
Have to fill it out that form, huh?
we're gonna fill it out. Yeah, I mean, I panted it out, so we're gonna get to it.
Okay.
So let's look at everything right now. Yes. You have to access, no, right now you just need to look at this. Don't worry about that.
I just want.
Don't even worry about it, Brian. Don't even worry about it. Right now, we're just gonna go over the form.
It's like
You
better.
guys are gonna be
Yes, it's fine.
professionals right now. Don't worry. So,
Yeah.
all right, so let's just look. You have that? You
No,
don't?
I have it,
Alright.
when I click on it, so.
Renew all. Yeah, renew. Part that it was fun. Yeah. You brought it to me, yeah. See, just check it out. We can try later. You might need to add something that's free. If you add something that's free and then check out. All right, so let's look at this checklist real quick. For our office, in order to get paid, we need to be compliant. Our office is responsible for having complete files on every deal that you do. So what do? We have a checklist. So as long as you have all these files in your file, we're good. Then you'll get paid. Right? So these files, after everything is signed, are gonna get uploaded into Command. That's how our broker has everything on file. So it gets uploaded to Command. I can help you with this, and our transaction coordinator can help you with this. Yeah. All right, let's look at the first thing.
But first of all,
Yes.
who's the listing landlord agent and sell?
Okay, so you know what? Yeah, let's look at this. Okay, so how do we know who the listing agent is? From the MLS. So when you are helping a tenant find a property, you're going onto the MLS and you're finding property. So let me log onto the MLS real quick, the MLS.
So I become the listing, tenant agent.
Right now, we're just looking at the checklist. So we're gonna look at this from the eyes of being the listing agent.
Uh,
All right, so if I'm just looking for leases, I'm just gonna go search, listing, lease. Active. And Beverly Hills. Maybe. All right, so here's leases in Beverly Hills. Let's just search that. Here's 17,000 a month. Let's see what it is. 525 North Rexford. We'll click it. Okay, 525 North Rexford. Asking 16,999 a month. I'm gonna go right down here to the commission, and they're only offering 2%. That's not nice. All right, let's go find something else. I'm not even taking my client there for 2.
Thank you.
It's not worth my time. All right, here's 20,000. Look at this one.
You found.
803 North Rexford. Asking 20,000 a month. There we go. Commission to the selling office, 3%. That's better. We like that one?
Yeah.
Okay, 3%. Now, because this is advertised in the MLS, which is gonna stop in July. Because this is advertised in the MLS, we are guaranteed this commission. If the landlord accepts our lease offer, we're guaranteed 3%. All right, let's look a little bit more here.
Are you saying in July they're not gonna have that?
Starting July 15th,
Got to call and
there's not gonna be commission advertised in the MLS anymore.
you just call and ask, right?
We're gonna call and ask. Yeah. We're gonna call it. Okay, so full rent for the term must be paid up front. Wow. So if you want a 1-year lease here, you have to pay 1 year up.
Really?
Cost you 200,000 to move in.
Horrible.
Can they do that?
Just telling you guys right now, all before you pick up the phone and call the listing agent with any questions, always read what's up here. So A listing agent will get very upset if you don't read anything and call and start asking questions that are already answered here. And you want to start out on a good foot with someone, right? So just make sure you read everything. Now, if I'm gonna call an agent and I'm gonna say to them, hi, it's JJ Wallack, Keller Williams, Beverly Hills. I'm calling about your property at 803 North Rexford. I see that you put in your remarks, whatever they put in, that the rent must be paid up front. Would they be willing to sign a 1-year lease and the tenant just pays 6 months up front? Like, but I'm acknowledging that I've read everything, right? That takes them off guard now. They know that I've read it. So it's just a good way to approach anyone that you're calling.
That doesn't even sound like a lease.
Yeah, right. 200, that's a down payment.
That's like a down payment. To lease.
Right?
To not own.
Didn't, what, they said you have pay 1 month security and the lease, so how come they asking, is that's LA? I mean,
Person probably needs.
yeah, I mean.
All right, so let's look at our lease checklist. So we have the lease listing agreement. We have a rental property owner disclosure, which is part of our lease listing agreement. And then we have a residential lease. Now, these items here, the bed bug disclosure, the tenant flood disclosure, that's all part of our lease. The water, there's stuff that we're gonna have to add. So
What's all that?
what we do, the listing agent is usually gonna be the one who handles all the paperwork. But it's often the case that the agent on the other side doesn't know how to do it. So I always assume going into every deal,
Stuff?
I always assume going into every deal that I'm gonna be the one doing everything.
You do.
And I'll never be disappointed, right? I'll only be happy when the other agent's doing it. So if I always have the attitude that I'll be the one doing all the paperwork, I'll never be disappointed. I'll only be pleased when I'm.
And what's the rent cap?
So we're gonna look at all these forms here.
And JJ, how we can find anybody looking for the lease or?
How do you find tenants?
Yeah.
What's my
It's just talking to people. Just talking, I mean, how do you find tenants? I mean,
Looking at them. I've been looking at.
yeah,
leases.
I mean, you don't want to. You start sending
Oh,
stuff out to apartment buildings, the landlord's gonna get upset if they catch your stuff. I don't know. They don't want you taking their tenants away from them. I don't know. That's marketing. That's a whole different thing. Right now, I just want to get into what do we do when we have someone who wants to lease the property? Okay, we're gonna fill out a lease listing agreement. So whenever you sign anybody, you're signing a landlord, you're signing a buyer, you're signing a seller, you always need an agency agreement. And what is an agent? So that's what this says. There are sellers agents, there are buyers agents, there are agents that represent both buyers and sellers. And we are talking about the broker. So our brokerage represents many sellers, our broker represents many buyers. There's also the possibility of our broker representing both at the same time or not. What are the responsibilities? Full disclosure, I can't hide anything I know about a property. My responsibility to a buyer or a tenant, full disclosure, my responsibility to a seller to get them the most money. That's my responsibility. And then I have to be fair and I have to, I have to be act in good faith to everybody, good faith.
And we find in the car and we can.
That's some problems.
Yeah.
East side sent to.
Yeah, no, right now, we're just talking about the listing. We're signing the landlord to a listing agreement because we're gonna put their property in the MLS.
Okay.
If you guys want to make a business out of leasing, you can make a lot of money. I mean, look, on one lease, you're only gonna make 1,800. What do you do 20 a month? 18 grand a month, right? You get full-time listing. So with the potential of making 36,000 a month or whatever, so it could be worth it. If you just drive around and call for lease signs that are not agents, these are mom and pop people that own duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, and they have a sign in the front of their property just for a lease. You can call them and say, hey, can I put your property in the MLS? Do you want me to put the property in the MLS for you? And they'll say, how does that work? And they'll say, well, you just give a commission based upon the nearest rent. And you'll get all this advertising through the MLS and all these other websites. Very easy to do this.
Free advertising,
Not free, nothing's free.
but it's free, but
They will get the benefit of all that advertising
They have to pay their commission.
by hiring you, and you only get paid if the property leases. Right?
yeah.
Okay, so we have a duty of fair and honest dealing with everything. So you have to use an agency disclosure no matter what. Now, this, I want to point out to you guys, there's a checkbox in the upper left-hand corner of the agency agreement. Okay? Whenever you're signing a lease, you don't have to worry about this right now on your listing, but you will when you sign the actual lease. If your actual lease is over a year, you'll need to check this box up here. It says here, this form is being provided in connection with a leasehold interest exceeding 1 year. So if you do a lease that's 366 days or more, you'll need to check that box. Yeah, that's all, just letting you know. The civil code says that exactly everything I just told you, that you have to present a agency form to any potential buyer or seller. Civil code also says what needs to be on the form. So that's all. I don't know why they provide the civil code, but they do on mission. All right, Privacy Act. So this is just saying that, see what it says, grants California residents certain rights in their privacy. That's collected by companies. Could potentially include photographs or sales information. It's putting people on notice. If you have a tenant in a property, and let's say you're gonna go, like the landlord has a tenant in the property and they want you to lease it. You're gonna go into that property now and take pictures, and the tenant has their furniture, right? So these are just things to think about. It's privacy concerns.
It has to be clean before you pay a
But
deposit.
maybe the landlord wants you to put it on the market before the current tenant moves out. So now you're taking pictures of the property with the tenants stuff inside. So you need permission, you know.
Yeah.
Hopefully
The landlord needs to clean before you pay a
yeah,
deposit.
maybe, maybe.
Then you don't pay a deposit.
So, yeah, anyways, just know this, it's part, everyone has to sign that. Okay, here's the actual lease listing agreement. So I gave this to you guys, you have it, you can follow my template for filling out your own listings. Let me show you how I fill mine out. So I have the landlord's name. Keller Williams Beverly Hills is the broker, obviously. I'm always gonna start it today. And I'm gonna put it maybe 180 days. That's the term. The address in, okay, here we go. Monthly rent is gonna go in there. How much is the monthly rent? 10,000 a month. Security deposit, you can put an actual number there. Or you can say 1 times the monthly rent, 2 times the monthly rent, however you wanna fill that out. Type of tenancy, check all that apply. Month to month tenancies, 1 year or 1 or more year. So I always check it all. I do it just like I was showing you. Okay. Items included in the rental. You can put anything in here that's included. Refrigerator, washer dryer, microwave, dishwasher, range. So this is the listing agreement. Not as important as the actual lease agreement.
What's the difference?
Well, the lease agreement is between the tenant and the landlord. So that's really gotta be careful, because that's their lease,
Yeah.
right? This is just the lease listing, allowing you to put the property in the MLS. Okay, so you don't even have to have anything in here, but I like to know what's included in the lease. Is the refrigerator coming with the lease? Is there a washer and dryer coming with the lease? Is there a stove coming, right? So this is where I'm asking the landlord what's coming with them.
Can you write all appliances if,
All appliances, yeah,
say instead of writing?
yeah, of course.
So it is.
Of course you can, but there's a reason to list them out, and we'll get there. Personal property that will not be maintained or replaced, so here we go. So the landlord might say to you, there's a microwave on the counter. And I don't care if they can have it, but if it breaks, I'm not repairing it. They can just throw it out and buy their own microwave. Then, I'm gonna make sure on the actual lease, there's gonna be a similar paragraph that says landlord will not maintain it. So I'm just gonna make sure on my lease that it's gonna say there that the microwave will not be replaced if it breaks. Right. All right, let's keep going. Okay, commission. The amount of commission is not fixed by law. It's set by each broker individually and may be negotiable. This has always been in bold on all our contracts, always, as far as I can remember. This has always said commissions are negotiable. California has always had great contracts. Always. This is the local fighting, NAR lawsuit settlement. are about states that didn't have our great contracts. Our contract is always said in bold, the commissions are negotiable.
The commission is total commission.
So it's always said it's total commission, and it's always said, this is how much we're gonna offer to the buyer's agent. Our contracts have always been like that. All right, so let's look at this. You have to be very careful how you fill this out when you're taking your listing. It says here for a fixed term lease. So what is a fixed term? That could be a 1 year, it could be a 2 year, right? Whatever the fixed term is. So I'm saying 6% of the total rent for the payments due under the lease. Okay. The RPO, the residential property owner, agrees to pay broker additional compensation of a certain percent if a fixed term lease is extended. Remember we were talking before about extensions? How do you get paid on? This is where you need to put something if you want to get paid for extensions. If you leave this blank and don't put anything, you're not entitled to any money for extension.
So next year, when they extended, you still have to get the commission.
Only if
Only if the landlord has to pay you.
only if the listing was filled out like this.
What happens if it's someone who did a 1 year and then they switched to month?
Right?
Would it make a difference?
Well. It's gonna make a difference on what was filled out here.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is what matters. So additional compensation. So the first part, it says. This is for,
Does it say you get
this
commission on renewal?
everything depends how you fill this out.
Or the way you filled it out here?
So it says RPO agrees to pay broker additional compensation of 6%.
Yeah,
If a fixed term lease is extended or renewed for an additional fixed term.
Oh,
That says if they go month to month, that's not a fixed term.
no,
So I'm not gonna get paid on month to month.
if they sign up another year, you get,
If they sign another lease, yes.
you get 6%.
Yes. Now, here's for month to month. Now I'm putting here for month to month. 50% of 1 month.
Oh, if you go month to month,
Yeah, so let's think about this.
but only 1 month, right?
What's the commission? 1 year, 10,000 a month. It's gonna be double that. So it's gonna be 7,200 total commission.
Right.
If someone signs month to month. Then let's say they sign a 3 month or 4 month, all right? Well, they just sign 1 month. The total commission will be 5,000. Now, what'll usually happen is if you have a landlord that's putting their property on the market for 1 year lease. Sometimes you will get a call from someone who had a flood. An insurance company is gonna call you and say, I have a tenant looking for. I need to get a property for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. Because they had a flood and they need a place to go during repair. Now, instead of 10,000 a month, this might go to 20,000 a month.
Fine.
Because the insurance company is willing to pay
You charge them more.
more money to get them for a short term. And the insurance company will pay to relocate them temporarily. So you're gonna get 50% of 1 month in that case,
Only one time, right?
only 1 time, if the landlord agrees to it. Landlord doesn't have to. So, but we just have to be very careful about how we fill this out so we get paid.
If they extend it for 5 years, every year, you get $6,000.
Yeah, I mean, if this is how you filled out your listing,
How do you know the land? How do you check with the land?
you have to put on your calendar.
Oh, on the calendar.
Landlord.
Check it.
Check its landlord.
It gets uploaded into the command.
It's uploaded into command.
Right?
Yeah.
Uploads it, I do.
All right, so for month to month, 50% of 1 month. Okay, now I put here. If the residential property owner within a certain amount of time enters into a contract. This is your protection clause. Let's say your listing period expires. Then someone that you showed the property comes and they want to rent it after your listing expired. You have whatever, up until whatever time you put in here. After your listing is over, that you will still be entitled to a commission. This is your protection clause, because don't forget, if people came to see the property, it's because of your work.
Right.
The money you spent on photography, the time you spent showing the property, you're gonna get compensated for that time. Your listing agreement may be over. That just means any new person, you're not entitled to compensation. But if it's someone that came during your listing period, you are still entitled to that, but only if you fill a number in here. If you don't put a number in here, you're not gonna be entitled to anything. So just make sure you put a number in there. Okay. Compensation on subsequent sale to tenant. Check this box. What happens if the tenant buys the property?
Does what?
What happens if the tenant buys the property?
That's
How are you gonna get paid? You better check this box on your listing agreement.
Which one is that?
Put a commission in here. That's the E. Check that box and make sure that you put a number in there. If the tenant buys the property, you will do all the paperwork and you're gonna get paid. Right?
What's in here?
Residential property owner agrees to pay broker if tenant directly or indirectly acquires or enters into agreement to acquire. Okay. All right, let's keep going. BO's and advised brokers policy regarding cooperation with the amount of compensation offered to other brokers. This is where we're putting the commission that we're offering in the MLS, 3%. Or coming July, it won't be in the MLS, but it'll still be advertised by us in other forms of media.
It's gonna be in here, right?
So we're gonna advertise that we're paying 3%. Remember, I just looked on the MLS for that $20,000 listing, they're offering 3%.
what number is it? Is it
Page 2.
okay?
Yeah. So this is what we're putting in, that we're advertising that the tenant's agent is going to be making. So here's the total commission at the top, 6%. And here is what we're offering cooperating. We're gonna cooperate with other brokers. This is what we're offering, 3%. And then for a month-to-month rental, what are we cooperating? 50%. So remember, we said for month-to-month, we're gonna get 50% in 1 month?
Yes.
That's the total commission, 50% in 1 month. How much are we cooperating? 50% of that. Half of that. So if someone signs a 1 month lease, we'll get half, and then we're gonna split that half with the other broker. So it's the way to fill it out. All right, 10.
Not to put the commission in here even after July, right?
Yes, you'll have to fill this out exactly like this is. There's nothing's gonna change here. The only difference is the MLS will not advertise. All right, tenant payments, very important how you guys fill this out. Very important. Pay attention, very important. Tenant payments. The landlord is gonna get the first month's rent at execution. The landlord is going to get the security deposit at execution. Now, you need to fill this out like this. Commissions deducted from the first month and security deposit will be paid to the broker at execution. Does everyone get that? We talked about that.
Yeah.
This is where I said we get paid up front, right? We do have an addendum, additional addendum, but I like to put this in my listing contract, so I'm having the conversation with the landlord right now. That tenant is gonna make checks to the landlord and to the broker. That's how we get paid. Commissions are gonna be deducted from the first month and security deposit. And that's gonna be at execution, just like the landlord, the residential property owner is getting paid at execution. First month. Here's another checkbox. Direct electronic rental payments. If the RPO permits tenant to pay by direct deposit, such as wire or electronic payment, that means Zelle, Venmo, wire. RPO should discuss with a landlord tenant attorney the implications of doing so. Okay, why is this here? Check this box. Make sure that the landlord knows the risks here. Tell a landlord, if they're going to collect. They're gonna collect electronically with their tenant. Okay, let's think about this. If a tenant pays $5,000 a month every month,
Mhm.
and they Venmo and they Zelle. What happens when the tenant pays $4,000 next month and says, I can only send you 4,000 right now. I'll send you 1,000 later, or I'll send you 1,000 tomorrow or 2 days.
Plus late fee.
Because the landlord collected 4,000. Let's just say they collected 4,000, that extra 1,000 never came, and the next month the tenant sends another 4,000.
That's what I,
The tenant can now say, the landlord has accepted my 4,000. My lease changed. Went from 5,000 to 4,000.
so what do you?
Here's the danger. Look, before all this Venmo and Zelle and all that, before that existed, the tenant had to make a check to the landlord.
Right.
And the landlord had the option of saying, I won't accept this check. Right? If a landlord is agreeing to accept payments electronically, they have to return that money if it's not a full payment.
Oh, really?
I mean, think about it. If they accept a lower payment and then the rest of the money doesn't come, and then the next month they accept a lower payment and the money doesn't come, it could be deemed that they accepted lower payment as rent.
And you could put in the contract, if they're late, they could pay a late fee.
Yeah, that's it. That'll be in the lease. But it's dangerous for a landlord to accept a lower rent.
Don't
They're
accept.
very dangerous. They have to be very careful about this. And that's why there's something in here that says if the residential property owner is permitting the tenant to pay like that, they need to discuss this with a landlord tenant attorney. Because the attorney is gonna say what I just said.
The best thing is not to accept.
If you're a landlord and you have a tenant that pays you partial rent payment, you should refuse it.
Okay, I have a student, they pay, each one pay their parents pay. One of them paid late, but all the pay.
So you've established a history of allowing late payments, basically.
So and then you have to tell them that you have to give one check.
The best thing you can do when you have a landlord, when you're representing a landlord that there's a bunch of students or a bunch of people,
Yeah,
you should ideally make one person responsible for payment.
1%.
And then that person needs to collect from all the other tenants.
Right,
That's ideally.
yeah,
Because what happens when two people are paying and the third person doesn't? Right?
right,
What happens? How do you kick everyone out? They pay, there's, I paid.
I paid it.
But everyone is fully responsible for the full rent. It's best to make one person responsible.
Right.
It's best.
Standard if you're working with students.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That should do it. They have 4 rooms and he would collect everybody's. And he would.
yeah.
Right, exactly. So just remember when you're signing a lease with 4 students, make sure one person's the designated payer
Yeah, I had,
and everyone signs and agrees. Okay. What'll happen in your case is you have parents that are paying.
yeah,
The parents are gonna pay.
yeah,
They're gonna pay, right?
yeah, the parents
The
pay.
parents. All right. Okay, so this is how I fill it out. Commissions deducted from first month's security at execution. All right. Key safe and lockbox. This is a checkbox. If you're gonna put a lockbox on the door, then you need to check this box. If there's another, if I have a vacant property, I'm gonna put a super box on the property. Because if someone's being represented by an agent, I want that agent showing them the property. They can go and spend their time doing that. But the landlord has to agree to it, okay? There's 2 parts to this addendum. I usually don't use part 2. Part 2 gives permission. You need, if the property is tenant occupied and you put a lockbox, the tenant has to agree letting you show the property by lockbox.
The tenant.
The tenant, well, right, if there's a tenant in the property and you're putting a lockbox, you need the tenant's permission.
Yeah, put the lockbox.
And people are gonna go, right, so this form has 2 parts to it. It's the landlord's permission to put the lockbox, and then the second half is the tenant's permission. to put the lockbox. If the property is vacant, you're only getting a signature on part 1. Who cares about part 2?
But if it's not vacant, you're not gonna put the lockbox in.
If it's not vacant, I'm not gonna put a lockbox, correct, that's good. Okay, sign, but you never know, there's situations, you never know, you never know. Oh, you never know. What if it's tenant occupied, but the tenant doesn't have anything in there except a bed and a dresser? There's nothing even in there, right? You still need the tenant's permission.
Oh, you pay rent.
There's nothing, yeah, but maybe if the tenant's only here 2 months a year, who knows, who knows? All right, sign. This should be checked. The residential property owner authorizes you to install a sign, okay? That's pretty much it as far as filling out. I mean, we have to have the name of the person. So if it's a company, a trust, or an LLC who owns the property, you're gonna check this box that it's an entity rental property owner. And then you'll put here who the legally authorized signer for the entity is. But usually you'll just have a landlord's name, landlord 1 and landlord 2. Your information will go here. You'll sign that. Here's the rental property owner disclosure. This is new. This started in June of 2023. Landlord did not used to have to fill out disclosures for leases. This is something that's totally brand new. The landlord now has to fill out a disclosure. It's gonna ask them. It's just different questions.
Change it, if you renew the lease, we have to use the bed and park and everything or no?
If you are renewing a lease,
I'm reading my lease.
the only thing that I'm aware of that needs to accompany a renewal, if there was no rent cap addendum, that'll have to accompany a renewal. If it wasn't included in the original lease. We're gonna see that 2 seconds. We're gonna see it. So, all right, so now the new law is, I don't even know if it's a law. This is a new form that's included with the lease that it's asking the rental property owner to fill out. So this one says intended to be provided with a lease listing and with a residential lease. So if the landlord fills this out, you will be giving this to the tenant. There's an additional disclosure here. It says rental property owner questionnaire, more questions. Intended to be provided with the lease listing and not with a residential lease. So this one will be provided with your lease. This bottom one will not be provided with the lease. And it's just asking the landlord questions. All right. Now, fair housing, we cannot discriminate. The landlord is gonna say to you, hey, I'm looking for this particular type of tenant. Well, you can't discriminate against any of these things. You're only gonna discriminate against if they can afford to rent the property. I would also say you want someone of good moral character. You don't want someone moving in and not paying the rent. So, but again, that you never know. You just never know. Hopefully you get a good tenant.
What page are you on?
So this is fair housing.
For immigration status, how does, like, if they don't have their social security number yet?
So that's financial.
Oh, that's financial.
If someone can't prove a credit track record, that's financial. A landlord has the right to deny someone based upon financial.
I mean, like, they moved to the country new and they're looking for rental, they have not received their
Oh,
security number.
citizenship. So
Oh, citizen.
someone can be a non-citizen and still have a work permit.
Okay, so ask for work permit.
Yeah, I mean, basically the landlord needs to see that they have income. The landlord might ask for a letter of employment from the employer, right? If I'm a landlord, I just want to know that my tenant is getting paid what they're telling me they're getting paid, right? And that they have a commitment from their job. Like what happens if they lose their job in 3 months? Hopefully they have a 1-year contract with their employer.
Yeah.
I want to see a 1-year contract, how much the income is. You know, I have to make a financial decision.
Yeah, yeah.
Gonna pay rent. A landlord has the ability to deny if they think the person can't pay rent. Okay. So. Okay. Everyone has to comply.
Is it mandatory to give this to the tenant if they don't? It's
This is
mandatory.
It's mandatory to be signed by your.
But if not, when you sign, if they don't give it,
It will be part of the lease. This is mandatory.
mandatory.
Now, it's mandatory. It's mandatory by California Association of Realtors because we're a realtor.
Right, right.
It's also required with our office.
But if,
If a landlord, I only know what California Association of Realtors and the Board of Realtors wants from us and what our office wants from us. So if you go into CAR and you add the form residential lease listing, this is included. It's a bundle.
yeah,
It's bundled.
that's good.
Here's the Privacy Act, so that'll get signed. So that's it. Once we have this, we're going to have a listing. Once we have that, we're gonna have a listing. So now here is the addendum. Let's look at the addendum. So we have 2 Keller Williams disclosures, remember? Okay, this one says landlord and tenant acknowledge and agree that Keller Williams Beverly Hills is no way acting as property manager, providing any property management services. Okay, so that's number 1. Here's the other one, the lease money just. Okay, this is where we're gonna fill out and it says. Property address, security deposit. So according to our example, security deposit, 5,000. First month's rent, 5,000. Total move-in, 10,000.
Did you get this form? I'm sorry.
So these forms are available from KWBH.
Not in here, huh?
KWBH Virtual.
Oh,
KWBHvirtual.com, and you're gonna click on helpful links. And then checklists and disclosure. All right, so here we're gonna fill this out. We're gonna make this part of the lease. So it's 5,000 security, 5,000 first month, total move-in 10,000. And here it says lessee to submit separate checks. Commission for the listing office, 1,800, payable to Keller Williams. Commission for selling office, 1,800, payable to Keller Williams. If we are the only broker, this will say commission for listing office, 3,600, payable to Keller Williams. Balance due to lessor, 6,400, payable to the landlord's name. Total amount due to the lessor must equal total amount move-in less the listing and selling office's commission. All checks must be a money order or cashier's check. Okay. And here again, we are not property managers. Keller Williams shall be limited to finding prospective tenants. The choice of tenant shall be at the lessor's full discretion and risk. Keller Williams does not and cannot warrant the performance of the tenant. Lease agrees to the following: make all monthly payments directly to the landlord. Make all inquiries directly to the landlord. Report any problems directly to the landlord. Tenant agrees to coordinate all repairs with the landlord. So once we place a tenant and the tenant gets approved by the landlord, we're out. That's our job. Our job is just to find a tenant, do the lease paperwork. Once the lease is signed by the tenant and the landlord, we are now out of the picture. We did our job. Anything else that happens afterwards is a landlord-tenant situation.
Just if you put any equipment like refrigerator, washer, dryer, and if they break down, the landlord has to fix it as long as the tenant.
All right, now you're talking about what's in the actual lease. So here's a lease.
I mean, can you specify that the tenant has to?
This is the lease. This is, okay, now, I don't have pre-filled out leases in my shared folder with anybody. Because leases are very particular to the situation and to the tenant, to the landlord. So I don't have I have everything else pre-filled out except an actual lease. So it's gonna take time to do these leases. We have to go through it. So you have the landlord's name, the tenant's name. So here it says the following personal property maintained is included. So what is the landlord offering and maintaining? A fridge, washer, dryer, stove, microwave, dishwasher. Now, if we keep going down, we're talking about here, this is the movement costs. So this is how I fill out a lease. The first month's rent, the security deposit, and then payable to, I write in here, see the KW lease money disposition. What does that say? That's the one that takes the commissions out, right? So I want them to say. I put a late fee in here. Yeah, I'm just gonna show you real quick. So right here, it says, the following items of personal property are included without warranty, and housing provider will not maintain, repair, or replace them. So this is where you put what the landlord will not fix.
It's number G, right? What number G?
Yeah, G.
Eleven G, right?
What happens in the event the tenant misses a payment? The eviction process is responsible, the eviction process?
The landlord has to give a 3-day notice to
Who
the,
does the eviction process? I do?
no, we don't handle it. We're not attorneys. We're not attorneys. We're not. No, the landlord is gonna have to hire an attorney. The eviction, yeah.
Is there also like a buyer lease agreement or just for the?
Okay, so in the residential real estate, we write offers. And we write an offer, and then the landlord has an option to counter our offer or accept our offer. In leasing, there is no offer. You only have a lease.
Right.
So what the tenant will do is they'll fill out an application. And if we are representing the tenant, we will forward the application to the listing agent. And in our email, it'll say, we're looking for a 1-year lease for this much money a month, this much money security deposit. We want to make sure all the drains are cleaned and this gets painted and this gets fixed. So I would recommend that as a tenant's agent, that you ask for everything you want up front. Right? So take your tenant back to the property. Turn on all the faucets, make sure everything's working. let the water go down the drains, make sure the drains are not filling up quickly and then not draining. Open the refrigerator, the freezer, see what needs cleaning, make all your requests up front. Because if you're taking the property as is, it's hard to ask for things after you move in unless something's broken, right? So now a landlord is responsible to maintain what's there. If they're generally, you can't take away amenity from a tenant. So if a tenant has a working spa tub, right, you have a tub in the master bathroom and it has jets. If that breaks, you have to fix it because
If he-
the landlord has to
Can they,
fix it.
can they legally move out, break the lease?
But they can, after asking the landlord to repair it several times, repair it themselves and then deduct from the rent.
They can,
They can do that,
legally?
but it has to be, they can only do that twice a year. I think,
Yeah, they can fix it and tell you.
after multiple requests, but it has to be reasonable. Everything has to be
And
reasonable.
if you're not home on something emergency and you're not home,
Yeah,
they have to fix it and they actually.
yeah.
What happens if the landlord comes in and takes out the dishwasher breaks, he just takes it out? He did that to me. He just takes it out, doesn't fix it. And can you break the lease and move out?
No,
You could buy your own, but you'd have to have request to please replace it. If a week goes by, or I don't know what's a reasonable.
you have to replace the one that you
Replace it.
that you
Replace it
agreed on
and
the
deduct
lease.
it.
You can't change anything, you have to replace it. The new one, yeah,
Put it, and then deduct it from the rent.
yeah, did I?
Yeah, my pleasure.
Wow, nice. I said,
Took it out.
all right, so that's,
Would you,
any other questions about leasing? Cause this is.
Just,
lease extension form,
Ex-
and how about, and I know if there are 4 or 5 students, you have to do addendum or additional signature? What for? That's a very good question. That's
Right. Let's say you have four tenants and one is moving out and one is moving in. You're replacing one of
Oh,
the tenants.
that's right.
Or maybe 5 students are going in,
Yeah.
the form has got 3 signatures. The other 2 form you do additional list. Or
So there is a form called additional signature addendum,
additional signature.
additional signature addendum.
So probably the price.
Documents, document,
Under it.
add a form.
Excuse me, I'm asking a question.
Additional signature addendum.
Hold on 1 second.
Maybe. So like, this is probably,
Yeah, of course.
oh, there's a lot of them.
This is the form that you would use.
Additional one.
Yes, now, here's the trick. You're gonna have to fill in what the forms are that this applies to. So it says this form is not an assignment, should be not used to add new parties after a contract has been formed. So if you have 5 people on a lease,
Right,
you have a place for 2 people to sign.
right.
So here, you're going to have additional signers.
You have fire.
How many more can you put in the team?
I have like 8.
Have as many as you want.
As many as
Patty.
we have to want for.
You can add, you can have,
Oh,
you can have 3.
really?
Excuse me, please.
Where's that at?
So John, here's what you need to do. You're gonna put in here other, you're gonna write residential lease agreement, bed bug disclosure, this disclosure, that disclosure. You're gonna write every single disclosure or contract that these additional people are signing. And then it's between these people,
Like that.
and the landlord,
One
right? So additional signer is gonna be a tenant. And you're gonna print their name and then they're gonna sign. Now, if this were a purchase agreement, there's 2 things that require initialing on a purchase agreement, liquidated damages and arbitration. So that's why these things are here. So each person can initial.
He said got for only 1 signature, no?
Every item here is for 1 signature, A, additional signer, B, additional signer.
That's one.
You have 5 people. You name 3 different names here.
Where you have to fill.
And you're gonna put their name here, tenant 1, tenant 2, tenant 3,
Oh, okay,
I mean,
and they're all gonna be tenants.
right,
But you need to make sure up here it specifies what they're signing.
right.
Now, me personally, I want every single person to sign the actual lease.
Oh,
I want 5 signatures on every page of the lease. 5 signatures or 5 initials on every page. I want everyone.
but if they have the parents also, there's a co-signer in that,
Parents only signed the guarantee.
or the guarantee. Oh, I see.
So here's the lease.
Where is the guarantee?
It's the last page of the lease.
Oh,
The 1%.
So here is the residential lease. So you have the names of the tenants, then you have the names of the occupants.
right.
Premises are for the sole use of people own.
That's 1 second.
And the last page of the lease,
Oh, the guarantor in
the
the,
last page of the lease says here guarantee.
Oh, really?
right, okay.
You're gonna check.
Oh, yeah, that one, yeah.
Check this box.
You pay.
Yeah,
They'll put the guarantor's name and they'll sign
okay.
their guarantee. You want your guarantor to fill out an application.
Yeah.
So don't move on. I'll let you know.
And this is the lease, this is, what about the lease extension?
So extension is gonna be a different form. And that's gonna be a form called extension of,
Okay,
that's gonna be
Thank you.
a
30 minutes.
extension of time.
Is it extension of time?
You there?
It's not an extension of time, it's a lease, it's the extension of lease. Let me see, lease.
I'll love to watch it. And experience.
Here, extension of lease.
Extension of lease. That's on the call form, right?
Is it extension of lease?
Right, okay.
Your extension of lease, it's very easy.
Right.
Scheduled termination date is extended to here. It shall be this much.
And then you add security.
Now, this is.
It's my time. We went door knocking.
You add.
Oh, you did?
It's not, yeah. It's so much to do, but it's not enough time.
I don't think you.
I did this last night, but do I have to check that box?
If you
November.
previously give this to the tenant in the original lease,
Uh-huh.
then you'll have to give it to them now.
Want to go door knocking one day,
With the extent.
but on that shit.
The rent.
Like a buddy for it.
So make sure if you're giving that form, if your property is not a rent control property, make sure that you check this box, notice of exemption.
Oh. The single family.
I can tell you from my own personal experience. I called a landlord tenant attorney and I said, on this house, whatever it was, I said, can landlord give notice to the tenant? Right? That they're not renewing the lease. First question the attorney asked me was, did they check this box? Well,
No,
this is the rent cap and just cause addendum. It's part of the lease.
Oh,
And this, if the property is not in rent control, you need to check this box. So just make sure that box is checked. Very important. I mean, that was the first question the attorney asked me. Is that box checked?
check the box.
Check the box for notice of exemption. This property is not subject to rent control.
Oh,
So
the
it's
single family is still,
single family, but if I'm renting a single family to someone, I'm gonna check this box. Don't forget to check that box. You can read this about the exemption. Just letting you know that exists. All right, guys.
I'm sending a like paper mail or direct mail. What should I do for a return address?
So you can put here,
Okay,
it might get thrown out.
would be better
No, I put here. It's here.
instead of my like personal.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're handwritten, so let's open it.
Take advantage of this club here.
Yeah, that's true.
You know? That's why I came here. I live in Lancaster. It's like 2 hours to get here.
2 hours. That's not,
This means I have free rent. Yeah, free rent, which
yeah.
If you have a whole house, things are leaving California now.
myself.
Not all
I'm
insurance.
gonna get free rent here in.
JJ.
Somebody gonna travel, wants somebody to watch that.
And Paul was asking a question. I thought insurance companies are leaving California. There were some insurance companies that stopped issuing insurance in California, but there are still a lot that are. Farmers insurance.
do we have to ask the tenant to get the insurance? Is that if,
Do you have to make any inspections?
Both work in Beverly Hills.
I don't hire like an inspector on lease. I actually have done it. I have done it once. I did have a tenant that was gonna sign a 3-year lease. And they did want to have inspections done before they moved in, but it's not common that you do.
that means the tenant can do inspections?
Tenant hired an inspector because they were signing a 3-year lease.
Oh,
They just wanted to make sure what they were.
they have to pay for it.
They paid for it. They wanted to know what they were getting themselves into, right? So, but it's not common.
Like the Legion class, he does it like every day,
Pays for
that he does
inspections.
that. Yeah, he'll do it like
Um,
off for like the first half and then every.
pays the tenants. So,
At 9:30.
Oh.
usually there's no inspection. I mean, the landlord will,
Barbecue chicken, right?
the tenant has to give the property back in the same conditions.
Right,
Minus wear and tear,
right.
reasonable wear and tear. So the landlord is gonna go and inspect the property before the tenant moves out. And the landlord, will say to the tenant, you know, from what I'm
I leave at
right now, these are, I might conduct for, I'm giving you the chance to fix them yourself before you move out. So there is a form, to give a notice to the tenant that they have the option to repair some things, but what usually happens is the landlord can't see behind the bed or under the rug, or, you know, there will be things that didn't appear to the landlord when they do their walkthrough. But the tenant does have the right to ask the landlord to come look at the property before they move out.
I swear.
To
Oh, yeah, to be the doctor saying like that.
evaluation. It's not hiring an inspector. It's not- it's not-
Is there any place where it says that the tenant has got the insurance?
That's not good.
The tenant has
Yeah,
got,
that's in the lease.
that's in the
It's
lease.
the lease, it says what if you're requiring the tenant is advised to get their own insurance
Oh,
because the landlord is not responsible
I
for
even get
the
an
tenant's personal belongings. So if there's a leak in the roof and the water starts leaking all over the tenant's personal property, the landlord is not responsible for that. The tenant is advised to have their own renter's insurance.
Right. right.
That's all in the lease. Good luck.
So is he very good? It's not the one that just.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jillian. Thank you so much.
330 million a year in sales.
Definitely, and they're always